February 16, 1990. The New York Post printed 6 explosive words across its front page, and in an instant, America believed it knew precisely who Marla Maples was. Best sex I've ever had. Marla has spent decades maintaining she never uttered those words. 28 years later, sitting on a courthouse bench, she told a reporter that someone else had concocted the quote. By that point, however, her life had already been reshaped by a legal instrument presented to her just 5 days before her wedding, a contract featuring a $1 million payout cap, a strict confidentiality clause, and a 5-year timer. Donald Trump initiated their separation in month 41. She has never revealed her full side of the story. Bound by legal parameters, she still can't. Yet, as the sole living key witness to those private years who has remained completely silent, her story is less about a tabloid scandal and more about the strategic value of withheld truth. It begins on a snow-covered slope in Colorado. Before examining how the relationship dissolved, it is worth analyzing how that initial front page functioned. The infamous headline appeared directly beneath a photograph of Donald Trump. The secondary deck claimed Marla was boasting to close friends about her relationship. It was not a direct transcript, nor an official statement, but rather a second-hand quote attributed to a 26-year-old actress from North Georgia who had not yet given a single formal interview about him. At the time, Trump was still married to Ivana Trump, and their impending divorce was rapidly becoming the most aggressively covered tabloid story in New York history. In a single news cycle, Marla Maples transitioned from an obscure name in gossip columns into a national punchline. When asked about the headline directly by Page 6 in 2018 while arriving for jury duty in Manhattan, her response was direct. She never said it. Someone else did. An alternative account of the headline's origin carries a distinct footnote. Jill Brooke, a former reporter for the Post, wrote in 2018 that she had been present during a phone call where Trump pitched the cover concept to the paper's editor, Jerry Nachman. Nachman reportedly observed that a selling front page required murder, money, or sex, prompting Trump to offer the line himself before calling across the room for Marla to confirm it. Brooke recalled hearing a faint response in the background. While that recollection surfaced nearly 3 decades after the event as a single witness's memory, the reaction within Trump's own organization was documented immediately. Barbara Reyes, who oversaw construction for the Trump organization, recalled that executives viewed the headline as damaging and crass, whereas Trump himself reportedly thought it was brilliant publicity. The very first line associated with Marla Maples in the public eye may not have originated from her at all. Marla Maples was not an accidental starlet who drifted into the media spotlight without background context. Born in October 1963 in Cohutta, Georgia, her upbringing was rooted in small-town public life. Her mother had worked as a model, while her father, Stanley Edward Maples, was a real estate developer, county commissioner, Baptist deacon, and songwriter. Growing up in that environment meant observing how property was developed, how public office required reputation management, and how religious faith was expressed before a community each Sunday. She served as homecoming queen, class secretary, and played basketball at Northwest Whitfield High School before attending the University of Georgia and eventually moving north. Her initial credited film appearance came in Stephen King's 1986 film Maximum Overdrive, where her role was listed simply as fourth woman Scream. These early experiences meant she arrived in Manhattan with an intuitive understanding of public presentation versus private reality. She recognized how appearances were constructed long before entering high society circles. In her book Confidence Man, journalist Maggie Haberman noted that Maples reportedly traveled with a wedding dress in her trunk so that if Trump ever decided to marry, she would be prepared. It stands as an image of someone navigating another person's timeline, a dynamic that would recur throughout her marriage. During the Christmas holiday of 1989, the Trump family traveled to Aspen, Colorado, for a skiing trip where Maples was also staying. The timeline of their initial connection remains debated, with accounts placing their first meeting anywhere from the mid-1980s to late 1989. What remains clear is a confrontation on the mountain. Ivana Trump described the encounter in her 2017 memoir as taking place outside a restaurant at the resort. The incident was covered extensively by media outlets at the time. After columnist Liz Smith broke the story of the marital separation in New York, the matter quickly became a dominant media topic. Tabloids covered every development for months. Yet the common assertion that Maples was merely a passive bystander caught in a media storm overlooks her active public schedule over the following 2 years. She appeared on numerous magazine covers, made frequent television appearances, served as a guest timekeeper at WrestleMania 7 in 1991, and made a guest appearance on the sitcom Designing Women. This media footprint coincided with a challenging period for Trump's corporate holdings. The Taj Mahal opening in 1990 entered financial trouble almost immediately, leading to corporate bankruptcy proceedings. Over the next 2 years, Trump relinquished control of the Trump Shuttle airline, his yacht, and his majority stake in the Plaza Hotel, while bankers established personal spending limits. The legal resolution of his marriage to Ivana cost an estimated $14 million, alongside property transfers and substantial annual child support obligations. In 1991, Trump proposed to Maples with a 7.45-carat emerald-cut diamond ring from Harry Winston. However, the engagement entered a 2-year period of public breakups and reconciliations. During this stretch, Maples secured her most prominent independent professional role in August 1992, joining the Broadway production of the Will Rogers Follies. Trump publicly praised her performance to the Washington Post, remarking that taking the stage required courage. That supportive statement, however, stood in contrast to comments he would later make on national television regarding married women pursuing independent careers. The impasse in their relationship ended with the birth of their daughter, Tiffany Ariana Trump, on October 13, 1993, in Florida. Maples later stated publicly that the Long Island Railroad shooting in December 1993 deeply affected Trump, prompting him to reevaluate his personal priorities and propose. Profiles from the period, including reporting in Vanity Fair, indicated that additional business and family factors were also at play. His parents expressed strong disapproval of children born outside of marriage, and Trump was preparing to take his casino entity public, which required presenting stability to institutional investors. A wedding invitations list of 1,000 guests were prepared for the Plaza Hotel ballroom for December 20, 1993. Then, 5 days prior to the ceremony, a formal legal contract was presented to Maples. Reporting by Gabriel Sherman in Vanity Fair detailed the terms of the 1993 prenuptial agreement based on copies of the document and attached financial disclosures. If the marriage dissolved within 5 years, Maples would receive $1 million, plus an additional $1 million designated for purchasing a residence. Support for Tiffany was set at $100,000 per year until age 21, terminating early if she obtained full-time employment, joined the military, or entered the Peace Corps. Maples relinquished all claims to any growth in his assets or future fortune. Furthermore, the agreement contained an extensive non-disclosure provision barring her from publishing any diary, memoir, letter, narrative, photograph, interview, article, or depiction regarding the marriage, whether factual or fictionalized. Maples had initially requested a $25 million settlement structure. Sources cited by Vanity Fair indicated she signed the agreement 24 hours prior to the wedding under clear pressure, with Trump maintaining that the ceremony would not proceed without the signed contract. The attached financial disclosures revealed a stark contrast. Trump listed his total net worth at $1.17 billion, while Maples listed $100,000 in liquid savings. Legal analysts noted that by stating a high net worth figure, the contract became significantly harder to challenge later on grounds of asset concealment. When asked about signing the restrictive terms, Maples told reporters that they had verbally agreed to review and revise the contract after a few years. The document, however, was never altered. The wedding ceremony took place in the ballroom of the Plaza Hotel. Maples wore a dress designed by Carolina Herrera, following a formal press conference for their marriage license hosted by Mayor David Dinkins. Among the attendees was radio host Howard Stern, who remarked to a reporter from the New York Times that while he gave the marriage 4 months, he wished them well. His timeline proved off by roughly 3.5 years, though his skepticism captured the public mood. Subsequent historical photographs published in 2025 showed high-profile figures, including Jeffrey Epstein, attending the reception, a reflection of the broad New York social network present in the plaza that evening. Following the wedding, Maples' independent acting career largely transitioned into appearances within projects tied to Trump's business ventures. She appeared alongside him in a 1994 episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and co-hosted the Miss Universe and Miss USA pageants in 1996 and 1997, events managed under his ownership umbrella. On March 10, 1994, less than 3 months after the wedding, the couple appeared together for an interview with Nancy Collins on ABC's Primetime Live. During the broadcast, Trump openly discussed his views on relationships, stating that he enjoyed the process of building up partners, comparing it to real estate projects, but noted that once success was achieved, the initial dynamic changed. He also expressed hesitation about wives pursuing independent business careers, calling it a key factor in his previous divorce. Maples sat beside him during the interview, legally constrained from offering contradictory commentary. Later during the same period, television host Robin Leach interviewed the couple for Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. When Leach asked which physical traits their infant daughter had inherited, Trump commented on the child's appearance using explicit physical comparisons. Despite these public moments, the marriage also included extended periods of stability. Following the opening of Mar-a-Lago as a private club in 1995, the family spent substantial time in Palm Beach. Trump later acknowledged publicly that Maples had stood by him during the severe financial restructuring of the early 1990s, a statement he reiterated during a 1999 interview with Howard Stern. Furthermore, reporting from a Wall Street Journal based on former Mar-a-Lago staff accounts noted that Maples had expressed early concern regarding Jeffrey Epstein's presence, instructing security staff that he should not be invited to the property. On April 16, 1996, an event occurred that would dominate subsequent tabloid coverage of the marriage. At approximately 4 a.m., a Palm Beach police officer patrolling a quiet beach stretch near Mar-a-Lago discovered a man under a lifeguard stand. The police report identified the individual as Spencer Wagner, a security guard employed by the Trump Organization. Maples was present nearby on the beach. Maples explained to authorities that Wagner had been driving her home from an event when she requested a brief stop. The National Enquirer published an account of the police report, and Trump subsequently terminated Wagner's employment. Wagner later sold an account of the evening to the Globe claiming an intimate relationship, though his ex-wife later stated in an interview with Inside Edition that he privately maintained nothing untoward had happened and expressed regret over the tabloid sale. Regardless of conflicting accounts, the incident provided a public narrative surrounding the relationship. However, Trump did not take legal action immediately, waiting over a year to initiate formal separation proceedings in May 1997. The timing of the legal separation aligned directly with the prenuptial agreement's calendar structure. The separation occurred in month 41 of the marriage, precisely 19 months before the 5U mark. Crossing the 5U threshold would have converted the fixed $1 million payout into a percentage-based portion of his net worth. Sources close to the negotiations informed media outlets, including the New Yorker and the New York Times, that the timing was selected specifically to keep the settlement within the flat rate clause. In October 1997, Trump published Trump, The Art of the Comeback, co-written with Kate Bonner. In the book, he attributed the end of both marriages to general lifestyle incompatibilities, writing that Maples desired a different daily routine. While Ivana Trump contested his written accounts publicly, Maples remained bound by her non-disclosure agreement. The divorce was officially finalized on June 8, 1999. Maples received a contractual $2 million total distribution alongside agreed child support provisions, while her non-disclosure obligations remained legally active. In late 1999, London's Daily Telegraph published an interview with Maples in which she reflected on her personal growth, stating she had gained the confidence to move forward independently after becoming a mother. When American tabloids picked up statements from the article framing the comments aggressively, her representative issued a statement noting quotes had been presented out of context, protecting her standing relative to the prenuptial agreement's non-disparagement provisions. In 2000, Maples placed a 7.45-carat Harry Winston engagement ring up for public auction. It sold for approximately $110,000, with a portion of the proceeds donated to charity. Subsequent book projects involving Maples were halted before publication. A proposed manuscript titled All That Glitters Is Not Gold was withdrawn prior to release in 2001, and a later project titled It's About Time with publisher Judith Regan was cancelled during early development stages. Consequently, the only extensive printed account of their marriage from the period remains a chapter in Trump's 1997 autobiography. Over the following decades, Maples relocated to California, raising Tiffany largely away from the New York media environment. During the 2016 presidential campaign, When past tabloid coverage was revisited by major news outlets, Maples declined interview requests regarding her former marriage. Instead, she participated in season 22 of Dancing with the Stars in spring 2016, performing a quick-step routine to Diamond's Our Girl's Best Friend. During a 2018 appearance on The Today Show, she focused on health, wellness, and music projects, noting briefly that she preferred to avoid judging others. She attended the 2017 presidential inauguration and later attended Tiffany's wedding at Mar-a-Lago in 2022. By maintaining her silence, Maples preserved a position within the extended family structure. Her daughter remains involved in family events, and Maples has avoided the public legal disputes that characterize other high-profile separations. Looking back at the February 16th, 1990 front page of the New York Post, the headline defined Marla Maples' public image for decades. Yet documented accounts suggest the words attributed to her may have been constructed entirely for media impact. While she spent the initial period of her public life being quoted without active input, her decision to refrain from publishing a memoir in the decade since represents a deliberate choice. Bound by a strict contract, her complete account remains unwritten, making it one of the few unexamined records of that era. What do you think is the most surprising revelation about Marla Maples' story? How do you view the role of public prenuptial agreements in high-profile marriages today? Leave your thoughts in the comment below. Don't forget to like and share this article, and subscribe for more deep dives into political and cultural history. To fully grasp why this unwritten record holds such enduring leverage, one must examine the specific mechanics of the media ecosystem Marla Maples was forced to navigate. In the late 1980s and throughout the 1990s, New York tabloid culture operated on a principle of manufactured feedback loops. A rumor floated over a business lunch would become an item in a gossip column by morning, which would then be cited as an established fact in late-night television monologues by evening. For an aspiring actress from Cohutta, Georgia, entering this arena was not merely a transition into high society. It was an entry into a highly sophisticated machine designed to monetize personal lives. Understanding Maples requires understanding that she was never simply a passive participant in this process. She observed how media narratives were constructed, how source anonymity was weaponized, and how public perception could be bought, sold, and legally contained. The legal machinery that governed her marriage was far more complex than a standard prenuptial agreement. When Gabriel Sherman published details of the 1993 document, legal scholars and family law practitioners noted the extraordinary breadth of its non-disclosure provisions. Standard prenuptial agreements typically focus on asset division, spousal support caps, and protection of pre-existing business holdings. The document presented to Maples 5 days before her wedding went substantially further. It included clauses that restricted not only direct commercial exploitation, such as memoirs or television interviews, but also any subtle, fictionalized, or indirect depictions of a marital life. By explicitly including terms like whether fictionalized or not, the agreement effectively neutralized any potential creative outlet Maples might have sought to use to share her perspective. It was a preemptive legal strike designed to ensure that one side of the story would remain the definitive historical record. This total legal enclosure created a unique dynamic within the public domain. While Ivana Trump was able to negotiate terms that allowed her to write books, give lectures, and build an independent commercial brand anchored in her public persona, Maples was placed in a position where independent commercial activity was heavily monitored and constrained. Her post-wedding work portfolio, consisting primarily of guest appearances on television pageants and family-owned corporate events, was not an accident or preference. It was a direct result of a legal framework that made independent employment outside the family business complicated, if not entirely prohibitive. Every contract, every public appearance, and every media engagement carried the potential risk of triggering non-compliance provisions within her marital agreement. The strategic brilliance, or ruthlessness, of this arrangement became fully apparent during the financial restructurings of the mid-1990s. As Donald Trump navigated severe liquidity challenges, casino restructurings, and the divestment of key assets like the Plaza Hotel and the Trump Shuttle, public perception was his most critical trading asset. Maintaining the image of an unstoppable titan of industry required absolute control over the narrative surrounding his personal life. A chaotic, publicly litigated divorce or a spouse openly contesting financial disclosures could have compromised ongoing negotiations with institutional creditors and banking syndicates. The prenuptial agreement served dual functions. It capped potential financial liabilities at a fixed, manageable threshold and guaranteed absolute media silence from the one person who had direct, intimate knowledge of his household operations during his most vulnerable financial years. When the separation was announced in May 1997, the execution was handled with clinical precision. The timing, occurring precisely in month 41 of the marriage, highlighted the mathematical discipline underlying the decision. Crossing the 60-month threshold would have shifted the settlement structure from a modest, fixed sum into a percentage of total net worth. In the world of high-stakes real estate valuation, where asset values can fluctuate by hundreds of millions based on market sentiment and appraisal methods, a percentage-based settlement represents an unpredictable financial exposure. By ending the marriage 19 months before that clause activated, Trump eliminated financial uncertainty. The subsequent background briefing provided to journalists by sources close to the legal team served a dual purpose. It established a public explanation centered on financial prudence and sent a clear, unambiguous message regarding the enforceability of the agreement. In the immediate aftermath of the final divorce decree in June 1999, Maples faced a critical inflection point. With $2 million in total distributions, half of which was legally restricted to the purchase of a residence, and child support set at $100,000 annually, she possessed limited financial capital compared to the vast wealth of the environment she had just exited. In major metropolitan real estate markets, particularly New York or Los Angeles, such sums required careful management, especially when tasked with raising a child in high-profile social circles. The temptation to monetize her experience through subtle leaks, off-the-record briefings, or authorized biographies written by third parties was immense. Media outlets, publishers, and tabloid producers offered substantial financial incentives for any insider detail regarding life inside the Trump household. Yet Maples chose a strategy that confounded both media observers and legal analysts. Rather than engaging in a war of attrition through proxy sources, she maintained a strict policy of public non-engagement. Her brief statement following the 1999 Daily Telegraph interview demonstrated her subtle understanding of legal boundaries. When quotes from the London publication were sensationalized across American tabloids, her team issued a prompt, carefully worded statement noting that the comments had been taken out of context. The statement did not retract the core sentiments, nor did it accuse the publication of fabrication. Instead, it created just enough legal ambiguity to insulate her from claims of contractual breach while allowing her core sentiment regarding personal growth to remain part of the public record. This pattern of calculated restraint repeated itself during subsequent book projects. The withdrawal of the 2001 manuscript All That Glitters Is Not Gold and the later cancellation of the project with Judith Regan underscored a persistent reality. Any attempt to publish a formal account will be met with immediate, aggressive legal opposition. Rather than spending years in costly litigation that could exhaust her settlement capital and potentially trigger financial penalties, Maples chose to abandon the publishing route entirely. By walking away from the book deals, she preserved her remaining capital and maintained her complete immunity from breach of contract claims. The auction of her 7.45-carat Harry Winston engagement ring in 2000 served as a rare, highly symbolic moment of public commentary. The ring, valued significantly higher at the time of its purchase, fetched $110,000 at auction. By donating a portion of the proceeds to charitable causes, Maples executed a transaction that was entirely legal under the terms of her prenup, while sending an unmistakable message. The ring, a physical symbol of the engagement and the high society lifestyle that accompanied it, was converted into public philanthropy. It was an act of severance that required no interviews, no quotes, and no violation of non-disclosure clauses. Her decision to relocate to Southern California to raise Tiffany away from the tri-state media cluster was perhaps her most consequential strategic choice. In California, Maples built a life centered on wellness, community activities, and holistic health practices, a stark departure from the intense, transactional environment of Manhattan real estate and tabloid journalism. This geographical and cultural distance allowed her daughter to grow up largely protected from the relentless scrutiny that surrounded her older siblings in New York. It also allowed Maples to develop an independent identity that was not perpetually defined by her former marriage. When the political landscape shifted dramatically in 2015 with Donald Trump's announcement of his presidential campaign, the media's appetite for historical coverage returned with unprecedented intensity. Investigative journalists, political operatives, and documentary filmmakers systematically reviewed every element of the 1990s tabloid era. Maples found herself at the center of a fresh wave of media inquiry. Television networks, news magazines, and international publications offered major platforms for her to speak about her past. The potential financial and social rewards of breaking her silence were at an all-time high. Once again, Maples chose an unconventional path. Her decision to join the cast of Dancing with the Stars in the spring of 2016 was a masterclass in media redirect. By agreeing to participate in a light-hearted, family-oriented entertainment program, she satisfied public curiosity and fulfilled television appearance demands without addressing political or personal controversies. When reporters pressed her in rehearsals and backstage interviews about the campaign or her ex-husband's past statements, she consistently pivoted to discussions of dance routines, physical fitness, and positive energy. She provided the media with visual content and cheerful sound bites while denying them the contentious political quotes they sought. This approach was maintained throughout the 2016 election, the presidency, and subsequent campaign cycles. During her 2018 appearance on The Today Show, when directly invited to comment on her ex-husband's character or unexpected behaviors, her response was characteristically neutral. She stated that she chose not to judge anyone and focus instead on her personal wellness journey. By offering non-judgmental, generalized responses, she maintained complete legal compliance while projecting an aura of personal peace. The subtle mention of past discussions regarding a potential political run in the 1990s was delivered as a benign historical memory rather than a political critique. Her ongoing presence at family events, including the 2017 inauguration, family holiday gatherings, and Tiffany's 2022 wedding at Mar-a-Lago, reflects the long-term success of this strategy. By refusing to adopt an adversarial posture, Maples avoided the permanent exile experienced by many who broke non-disclosure agreements or engaged in public feuds with the family. She retained her standing as a respected family member, ensuring that her daughter remained fully integrated within the family structure and inheritance dynamics. The birth of a grandchild in 2025 further reinforced the enduring nature of these family ties. Decades after the front-page headlines of 1990, Maples remains an integral part of a prominent American family, possessing a unique historical perspective that has never been diluted by public litigation, sensationalized interviews, or ghost-written memoirs. Her silence, initially imposed by an unyielding contract handed to her days before her wedding, was transformed over 25 years into a personal asset of profound value. In the final analysis, the story of Marla Maples is a compelling study in narrative control within modern media history. In a culture that continually demands immediate self-expression, total transparency, and the commercialization of personal trauma, her journey stands as a striking counterexample. By recognizing early on that public statements could be recontextualized, weaponized, or legally challenged, she chose the one path the legal contract could neither enforce nor strip away: absolute, disciplined silence. The most powerful story she possesses is the one she has chosen never to sell. What aspect of Marla Maples' long-term strategy do you find most intriguing? How do you think modern social media would have altered the tabloid dynamics of the 1990s? Share your thoughts in the comment below. Don't forget to like and share this article, and subscribe for more in-depth analytical content.